Mike, we got to talk about Penn State. We're filming this on a Friday. This has sort of been a very fluid week. Things have been happening. We usually tape on a Tuesday, but it's a good thing we didn't. There's a lot that's happened since then. You've been to the Attorney General's. You've been to Penn State 2 other times for press conferences, some that happened, some that didn't. The coverage has been wild. Here, the Sunday News did stuff. You had a story, but also Marv Adams was putting this together, and it's been ongoing in our daily paper as well. You know, first of all, how did things get so out of control at Penn State? What are your impressions?
I think it's a cultural thing. I think part of it is the isolation of Penn State, although I think some people have overstated that a little bit. I think part of it is just when you start to believe so fervently that we do this the right way. We know that we can entrust Joe Paterno to do this the right way, where you almost regard this guy as a larger-than-life figure, and it almost becomes cultish. And I think that's one of the things about Mike McQueary. Mike McQueary, a lot of people are being critical of him, but when he saw what he saw, he took it to a guy who is almost like God. How could you, we can fault him, but in his mind, he's taken this to God to say, what do I do about it?
Well, I was going to, short answer, because you're basically answering here, do people look at Joe Paterno more as a deity than as a man at times?
Well, I think that's a lot of what that if you want to call it a riot or the unrest or the crowds that filled the streets of State College the other night, I think that's what that was about. Disconnect from reality.
Did students and fans in that situation forget and lose the focus that this is not about JOPA, this is about a bigger thing, and our hearts go out to these victims. I mean, this has been going. We've heard rumors about this. You and I have talked about this. Mm-hmm. The Patriot News has been working on this for years. They deserve a lot of credit.
They've done a phenomenal job, and I fully expect them to get a Pulitzer Prize for this. This is off the charts, brilliant reporting.
I don't normally give credit to other papers. We try to promote our paper.
But, reality is reality.
Reality to this, your reaction of how the board has handled things, the Board of Trustees.
Well, I wish the Board of Trustees would have just done something very simple, which is wait till the next morning to announce this. I think that would have assuaged a lot of the rioting, or whatever, if you want to call it rioting. Just wait till 9 o'clock the next morning and do it. I don't see what the point was. I think sometimes one of the things that's happened here that bothers me about the media coverage of this is people are trying to outrage each other. People yeah. Really. I mean, I'm as angry about child abuse. Nobody in the world is more angry than I am about child abuse, and I think Penn State got caught in a way reacting to that a little bit, and almost being too hasty. Endless. This is endless. This is one of those things where you could just talk endlessly.
It's somehow the Ohio State tattoos and the Miami giving a couple cars away seems small compared to this.
I'll say.
And those were ESPN and Yahoo Sports type stories. This became the Today Show and NBC Nightly News.
Sure, yeah.
And when it hits CNN, it's pretty big. How poorly has the administration, as far as communication goes? They canceled your press conference on Tuesday after you guys were lined up to go in for the press conference. Does the administration up there in the communication department need to take a PR class? I mean, they could go sign up.
Well, they really screwed that particular episode up. I'm not sure why. I mean, because they called me while we were driving up there. We were more than half the way up there. They called me and said, "Are you going to be there live or do it over telephone?" Which tells me that at that moment they were still planning to have it. So they must have decided in a tiny little window of maybe an hour to hey, we're just not going to do this.
How much of a circus do you anticipate on Saturday? How many rings are going to be there for this Nebraska-Penn State game?
I don't know if I'm more nervous or scared or excited. It's going to be an amazing thing. And this is, I've been doing this for 30 years, and this is the biggest story I've ever had, and certainly the strangest story that I've ever had. And as horrifying as it is, and there have been moments when I've been talking to people on the phone in tears, which literally, and I don't do a lot of that. I don't do a lot of crying, Starkey. But it's been sort of exhilarating from a pure media standpoint in a way, and the aftershock is going to be felt for years to come.
I can compare it as probably when you were doing those interviews, the kind of material you were getting. I had a 9/11, somebody was interviewing a survivor where the hairs on my arms were sticking up, and that's the kind of, you've got the material. Let's talk briefly about that. You've talked to some past players. Graham Zug, a Manheim Central guy, being one of them. What kind of reactions are you getting? Or can you give me a story about revealing some of these people you've talked to that gave you those emotions?
Well, one of them was a Penn State, a person who has given millions of dollars to Penn State University, and there are things going on in his life other than that right now, but just very, very disillusioned and disappointed and horrified. And I mean, this is a guy who's worked closely with Graham Spanier and worked closely with Tim Curley and knows these people and just has put a lot of his life into Penn State University as an alumnus, and so that kind of thing. The players, I think the players can say, I know what Joe Paterno meant to me, and that doesn't go away. This doesn't change that because it's tangible and it's real. He's impacted my life and changed me and made me into a man, and that doesn't go away. And at the same time, think about the big picture of the horrendous things that have happened here.
As a Penn State graduate, I got the sweater on. People were shaking their head. They see me with a baseball cap on with Penn State and this. But, I had a lot of great teachers there, and I have a lot of pride in that education I got there as well. And growing up as the only coach I ever know there, and I got a little teared up when I saw on the screen that he was being let go in this way. I felt like they stripped him of some dignity. But then I read more of the affidavit, and I read more of this, and, I got to ask you, does it change your opinion of Joe today, what you've read?
Yes, it does.
It changed me a little bit, too.
Yes, it does.
I might have had him up on a pedestal.
And I think it's weak to say right now that it's all alleged and we just have to wait till there's enough that we know. There's enough that we know. You live in the real world. We're all adults. We know how the world works. We know more than enough to know that Joe Paterno's image can never be completely rebuilt.
And I guess that hurts me as a fan, as somebody who grew up with this team and a graduate. I didn't want that image of Penn State and of him to be tarnished this way. And you're not going to take it back. Once you lose your reputation like this,
you're not going to take it back.
Recruiting and coaching, got to ask you, we've already heard about recruits that have dropped a wayside or said they're out, other than saying we're waiting to see, we reserve our opinion here. How big a hit do you think this is going to be?
I think it's going to be huge because you already, as you said, you've already heard kids decommitting. It's going to be, they have no idea who the football coach is going to be. So they're not going to get a lot of new kids in this class. So that's an issue. And we have, again, what big name coach would want to come here? We're talking about Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer's going to be up there tomorrow. I'm going to try to talk to Urban Meyer, although that's an extreme long shot. I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, if Urban Meyer wants to come here now, grab a hold of him and don't let go. But I don't think it's going to happen.
Sex scandal, lawsuits. I don't think they pay the coach a lot of money anyhow, and they're not going to have the money to pay him because they got to pay lawsuits. Your Al Golden is not even going to want this job.
Never gets
Al Golden. Rich Kotite, is he still available?
That's a first. First time I've heard Rich Kotite mentioned. Good call.